We're very excited. I'm very excited to have Mr. Sandy Lydon on the phone, the history dude, one of my favorite people, and I haven't talked to you in a long time. So, welcome to the program, Sandy.
Well, are you hearing me from way over here in the Aptos Hills?
Well, I have a Dixie cup and some string, and yes, you're coming in loud and clear. Yes, you are very clear, and
Okay.
thank you for joining us. What's up, history dude?
Well, you're you're the one that has to explain how a radio station got named for something which was originally called whale snot when seen in the water. So, K-squid is whale snot.
Well,
maybe that's a little too
that's a bit
strong,
harsh. Yeah, I would say we like
Well,
squid.
no, but see, that's what people said they saw because they didn't. Squid had no real commercial value until very late, until the 1870s, 1880s. So, and they came and went. They migrated. Nobody knew where they went, and nobody knew, and they had no value. And it was Chinese immigrants who actually saw the value of them and began to harvest them. And that always caused a certain amount of startlement with the local population when anybody all of a sudden saw something they didn't have any value for, and turn it into a product. And so it's
Wow.
in some ways the beginning of larger scale commercial fishing was the squid. The sardines get all the press, but I guess sardines appear to be a little more cuddly.
I don't know.
A little more. You can have an affection for a sardine. Hard to have an affection for a squid.
I don't know.
Cuddly is not a word.
You haven't really met our mascot, Squidmore. He's quite cuddly. He's got these cute little arms.
I've seen, I think, an image.
He's a giant
And
squid.
I have one. I have a stuffed squid that I got in Japan, in Hokkaido, and I think it was a mascot for a baseball team up there.
They're very revered because they're smart. They're smarter than you think. They're very smart. And also, they will cuddle you, even if you're not particularly into cuddling. So there's some non-consensual cuddling that big squids...
Oh, yeah. Well, then they can leave welts on your legs. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's good.
Those are the Humboldt squid, I think. We're talking about Humboldt, which is the color of our mascot.
I don't know, but let me just forewarn you. This... we have a subscription to the New Yorker magazine in print. We try to subscribe to everything in print, and there is an article today, this week's issue of the New Yorker, on the commercial squid industry worldwide, focused on China, actually, ironically, and it's not for the squeamish. It's an incredible story. The guy did it on, the New Yorker, about once a week can tear a hole in my afternoon.
They have long articles, really long articles, almost as long as a giant squid.
Yeah. Well, they don't give it away, so I hope they're paying somebody to do those pieces. So the thing today, I'm doing a lecture Saturday evening,
the 14th,
at the Rio Theater, always spelled R-E-T-H-E-A-T-R-E, over there in Branch of 40, sometimes called East Santa Cruz, which being sponsored by the Leadership Santa Cruz, which is an organization that came out of the chambers of commerce 30-something years ago, and they've given me an opportunity to say what I want.
Has anyone ever censored you, Sandy Lydon?
Oh, are you kidding me? Oh my God! In fact, more recently than. Oh yeah. Oh sure.
You get canceled?
Whether it's in television editors, television station managers. Oh my God, sure. When I was doing the weather on Channel 35 way back in the late 80s, the station manager, she'd call me, and every once in a while she'd say, we're maybe not supposed to say that on television, on the nightly news. And and then I would often say to people as they were looking into their television set to find out what the current conditions were outside their house, I would suggest to them, why don't you just go out the door and look and see? Why are you looking in here? And the station manager would often say, see, we're trying to get people to watch the show. You're not supposed to tell them to go away. So I have a storied, multi-storied.
You have a relationship with the media. Yeah. You do, and it's funny because I remember a story you told about you're the weather guy at first, and because the weather was always the same, pretty much, so foggy and burning off at noon, you managed to sneak in history tidbits, and that's how you became the history dude.
They had the show had a 3.5-minute hole in the middle of it, which was set up for the weather, and you do that to keep the sports from running into the news. See, you got to keep sports separated from the news. You don't want people to think that sports are really news. So and then the weather segment is not scripted. There's more than you're going to want to know about this. But the weather person is not usually scripted, whereas the other people on the set are scripted. So the flexibility in a television news show is the weather person. And they would come on to me, like a couple minutes before I would come on air and say, now, you've got, you had 3 minutes, now you've got 2. Or the horrifying time would be, well, you had 3 minutes, but now you've got 5.
All right.
And then they would expect, to ad-lib, because I could ad-lib. I'm a teacher. That's what I do. That's what teachers do. And so I was the shock absorber in the middle. And if, the president was late coming on the air for a news thing or something, then the anchor would invite me up and say, here, sit next to me, because he's never on time, and then you can make something up. And the reason I stopped doing it was that there was no response. There's no audience. There's a camera person that oftentimes locks down the studio camera, and they're not even there. And then I'd get on, I'd get off my segment and go to break, and I'd get back on the set, and I'd say, gee, what do you think about that one? And they say, what'd you do? I mean,
your own boss wasn't listening.
Anybody in the studio.
Not even your boss was listening to you. That's very sad. Well, we hope
she was always listening,
but not the camera people. They just locked the camera.
So I'm thinking that we're in a crisis. Boy, are we? More than one.
You don't say.
A long-term crisis that was caused by COVID. That we're suffering from historical memory amnesia. In other words, historical amnesia. Because during COVID, everything shut down, libraries and all that stuff. And so people began to look for their history online only, which is pretty scary. Because I've often said that the internet is just a big restroom wall, and there might be something on there, but most of it isn't. And it's not curated, and not, and there's no footnotes, and there's no precision. And what it has led to I think, an abuse of history. That is, people are making it up, and it's more common, I think, out to the east. Out in places like Florida and so on, where
Texas.
School boards are deciding what can be taught and whose history to teach
and whether whether you ever read something that casts the United States in anything less than a very rosy light. This is part of the expunging of any of the negative parts of history that you hear happening in some school systems, where they don't want anything that makes the United States not look like a hero.
Yeah, but see, the deal is that the way it worked was that the winners wrote the history. That's the way it is when professional historians aren't involved. Trained historians go back to the past and find what's there, and then their judgment. They fashion, using their judgment, what might be important about what happened before and so on. Well, now everything that happens to us is historical. Television news reporters, and I can criticize them because I used to hang around with them, tend to use a lot of hyperbola when they describe things, and oh my God, it's gargantuan and massive and unprecedented and historical. None of that's true, or it may be, but it takes time to decide what's historical. But they're trying to get people to watch the news.
But some things truly are without precedent, though, Sandy. Like I think this is only the second time a speaker's been booted out of his seat, and it's certainly the first time a president has been running for office with 90 different counts of illegal activity against him. So there are some things that are fairly new, wouldn't you say, that are going to be historic later on?
Well, but yes, maybe, but everything has to answer the historian's question of so what? In other words, we're trained to try to posit out and to ferret out what's important. In fact, my students used to get frustrated because I had a rubber stamp made for their essays. I got tired of writing it. So what? Question mark. Because you just lay stuff out, and you don't indicate how this all fits into everything. Then it does, and very often things that happen now will fade away in the past, and it doesn't make a hill of beans. Now, I'm not saying that what you were describing, maybe, but I'm focusing. I'm staying away from the political, and really discussing the sort of natural order of events, and particularly the cataclysms. I've often thought this should be called cataclysm, Cataclysm Cruise County. That's a bunch of C's, but Cataclysm Cruise County, because there's always one, and to discuss perhaps the more recent one, which of course were the floods earlier this year. But I'm very fond of the Loma Prieta earthquake on October 17th, which is coming up, and that's been 34 years. Hard to believe. Mm-hmm. But how important it is that we remember the cataclysmic events. We have to. The things become disasters when we forgot about them. And we have to keep them in the forefront of our minds, and that's hard because your mind says, "Oh God, you're reminding me of that again." But we have to overcome that tendency to forget, and to go back to normal, whatever the hell that is. And I think I've often said that the problem with this place is it's too nice. The nice soft breeze, except if you're over in Aromas. And then, the sunsets, and I mean, it lulls you into believing that this is normal. No, it's the other way around. Floods, earthquakes, fires are normal. It's the calm spots in between them that are abnormal. We're looking at them the wrong way. And the October 17th earthquake is right there. And we've, I'd say most of the people within the hearing of your radio station probably weren't here on October 17th, 1989, either unborn or, unmigrated. And there's some really important lessons. And the one is be prepared. You got to be prepared. And it's hard because people are hammering at us all the day. They just did this alarm thing they sent over the radio waves and stuff the other day. And on my phone, it came up as a person's voice, a person's name.
Wow.
The voicemail thing, the
alarm
ID.
system. Yeah.
When it came up, it didn't say alarm, run away, run for cover. It said somebody's actual name, and my impulse was not to answer it. I thought it was a robocall coming from, you know what I'm saying?
So we have some work to do. If you just join me, I'm talking with Sandy.
We have some work to do.
Sandy Lydon is my guest. Hang on just a minute. Let me reintroduce you. This is Sandy Lydon, the history dude, Professor Emeritus of Cabrillo College, giving a talk Saturday, the 14th. And what's the title of your talk, Sandy?
You can't hide.
But you can run.
Joe Lewis saying was, you can run, but you can't hide.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful saying because there's a sense of ominous to it. You can run, but you can't hide. You can't get away. It's inevitable. And that's it. It's inevitable. In this place, it's inevitable. Something's going to bite you. And the tragedy is they never come two in a row. They always, you get, okay, I get ready for an earthquake, and then it rains for 40 days. And and then when you thought you knew them all, a tsunami shows up. That was back in 2011.
I remember.
It's an interesting place, and this doesn't account for any of the human-caused, calamities that, but we have wildfires, histories of wildfires here long before we were even setting them, and so it's. But I think it's an admonition. I think mostly for people to start paying a little more attention to the outside world, and maybe less attention and getting their reality from their phone. Put down your phone. Now, I know that's counter to what you're trying to do. You people on K-Squid are trying to get people to listen however they can. But, I think it's pay attention. Pay attention to this place. And God knows you've got plenty of time. You'll be sitting on Highway 1, not moving very fast, and actually it'd be safe for you to look out the window when you're creeping along at 1 mile an hour. And take a look around. Because the answers to a lot of things that are happening to us are right there. They're in the landscape. This place, you never could get around this place. You couldn't. And even now that we've leveled it all out and put in culverts and bridges and trestles and all that stuff, no. The landscape has the last word. And of course, gravity wins everything. Gravity eventually it'll all look like a pool ball. I don't think we'll be here to see that, but.
Well, who knows what'll happen long term? So what are some of the take-home lessons you would like people to remember at looking at Loma Prieta, for example? Like you mentioned, the anniversary. It's a good time to reflect. We're only a few days out from that anniversary, so good time. Well, what kind of lessons do you think it should teach us?
Well, I think the idea is that you should never let events like that slip away, and I think we have. I was doing because in some ways it was our earthquake. The epicenter was actually about 3/4 of a mile from where I'm sitting. San Francisco tried to fall down and get all the press, or downtown Santa Cruz, or even downtown Watsonville, but it was up in what is now the Forest of Nicene Marks. The epicenter was right up there, and it popped, and it was a good one. I grew up in Hollister. Hollister has, over a 365-day year, over 800 earthquakes of 1.5 or better magnitude. That's 800 a year. They occur more than 2 or 3 times a day. I grew up there. I thought I knew earthquakes. And Loma Prieta was just, nope. And so what I've tried to do is personally, I play a game with myself. I say, okay, and this is wherever I am. Okay, what about now? What if it happened right now?
Mm-hmm.
Am I ready? What would I do? Is my family connected with? Do we have a little bit of a plan? Generally, for earthquakes, you don't need a go bag. You don't need to be able to run away. You just need to be able to pick up stuff. But it's just when they fixed Holy Cross Church, the hat fell off, the steeple fell off Holy Cross Church in Santa Cruz, and eventually they put it all back together. And then Father Mike Marini was in charge at that time, and I was there with him toward the end, and I said, okay, are you fixing everything? And he said, well, pretty much. I said, don't. Leave something somewhere, in a closet, somewhere, because St. Andrew, for whom the earthquake fault is named, is still angry. And you can't put it all back. Because if finally the last crack and the last thing, and then St. Andrew, who was crucified upside down, by the way, as a martyr, which would give him some cause to really be upset, he'll remember and say, oh, they haven't had one for a while. It's just having these things sort of close by. Understanding that there's no normal. There's day to day, and if we're lucky, we get another one. And how do you look at this place? And actually, if there was a real rule I just hope that people would finally shut up and listen. Listen to the landscape. Listen to the place. And the yammering and the bickering and the squabbling. It's great. It's great recreation and sport here, but it's not always helpful. Cultivate no opinion. That's one. Yeah, try that one. But I think that's a rule. And when I was training people for leadership Santa Cruz, that was one of the first rules that I told people was, if you come in and you're an executive director of a nonprofit or something, and you've come in from Kansas, and you've got these degrees and everything, I said the very first thing is don't take a position on a argument that's going on. And certainly don't do it publicly. If you do it to yourself. But as soon as you start picking sides, you start to lose people, and it just metastasizes, and pretty soon the board of directors that hired you will fire you. That's kind of one of the, I guess nonprofits have boards of directors. That's one of their characteristics, and but they never seem to hire from inside. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, quite often.
Do you have a board of directors?
We do. I'm the chair, and we have 10 people on the board, including myself. And most of us were there at the beginning when we started the station, which has almost reached 5 years, amazingly. And it's only because people want it to be there that it continues at all, which is kind of a miracle. But we keep reproducing the miracle every 6 months. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to take a short break and say goodbye to Sandy, which we will see you again Saturday night, I suppose. What time is the event at
I hope so.
What time is your event?
So the place is filling up. So.
Okay, well, get a ticket
Okey
now.
dokey.
Sandy at the Rio, thank you. It's nice to hear your voice.
Squid.
Go Squids. All right. You have a good time.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Sandy Lydon joining us by Miracle of Modern Technology. And we're very happy that he could today. We appreciate it, really. He's a local treasure.